Hey everybody, welcome to Drive-Thru Review 213. Today I'm going to talk about Francis Drake. This is a brand new release from Eagle Gryphon as well as KL Games, which is based out of Australia. I already did sort of a glorified unboxing of this, but I've been getting actually multiple requests to actually do a full review. And I've had the chance, since that video, to play this game a few times now. And so I'm going to just, for edification, probably do reviews of games that were on Kickstarter here for the next couple of weeks. I'm currently running my own Kickstarter campaign, and as sort of luck would have it, or serendipity or something, I have a sort of a small stack of games that have been released on Kickstarter that I think are good, and going to be reviewing them. So here's the first one. Francis Drake, and let's just jump into how it works, and I'll come back and tell you what I think about it. Okay, so this board is actually quite huge, so I'm just going to give you a quick sort of high-level overview, and then I'm going to go into the different areas and tell you about it. Now, the board is gorgeous. It's got some nice illustrations, sort of an old map kind of feel. Basically, the game's separated into two phases. You have the first phase up here, which is sort of kind of a different kind of worker placement aspect of the game. You're going to be placing your little discs around here. Then you have some plastic ships that you're going to have, and then you're going to sail them out here and do different sort of conquests and some trading and some different stuff. I did talk about it in my first video, but awesome insert, awesome components. That's all I'm going to say about that this time. So like I said, the game's divided into two phases, sort of a worker placement phase and then sort of a sailing and battle phase. The game is basically 3 turns, and you've got this nice brown plastic ship here as a turn marker, which is pretty cool. I'll show you more of these plastic ships in a second. And you can see here we've got some different activation spaces. Now, based on the number of players, you're also going to get these tiles here. And you can see in this case, you have a light blue banner here and a light blue banner here. So these are basically what we call the 4-player activation tiles. If you were playing a 5-player game, you would use these dark blue tiles here. And you can see, example here, this is a spot where you'll get some crew. So you've got 4 spots to get crew. And if you look here, in this 4-player game, you've only got 3. So the game sort of scales in terms of its availability of resources and things that you can do based on the number of players. Now, the first round of the game, you're going to play basically everything out in this order. But then in the second and third round, you can take and shuffle these tiles up and then place them on top of these. And then, so it's going to sort of change up the order. And that makes the game super interesting, actually. And I don't see why you couldn't do that even on the first round. I think maybe, the suggestion is that you could even just leave these for all 3 rounds in a first play. That maybe is good for a first play. We just jumped right in and played with it, with the shuffling. So what you're going to do here is each player gets 10 of these little discs here. And so you're going to take turns placing these out on these spots. So if I go here, if I'm yellow, I'm going to get 2 gray cubes, which are considered crew members. Maybe blue comes in here after me, he gets 2. And then red, maybe we'll decide to skip ahead. He's going to skip ahead here, he's going to get 2 black cubes, these are guns. Now it's worth noting that the turn order is not necessarily going to be clockwise. You're going to have these plastic ships here, and these are going to determine the turn order. And this will get reordered through some different things. Mostly at the beginning of each round, whoever's least in the amount of points will get sort of a catch-up mechanism and go first and then work its way down from there. Now let's say it comes back to yellow here. So yellow's next placement has to be ahead of his current placement. Now, you can't ever have more than 1 disc in the same activation spot, with the exception of Francis Drake, which I'll talk about in a second. But yellow pretty much has to go ahead of himself. So maybe he'd skip up here to get supplies. And now, if he wanted to on a later turn, he couldn't go backwards and get guns. You've always got to kind of lead yourself ahead. So there's an interesting dynamics to how this sort of plays out, especially when you shuffle these tiles. Do you want to leap ahead to a really good spot, or do you want to kind of sort of turtle and sort of clean up the leftovers? So basically, you're going to play around, starting here and then placing your disc going down to here. Once you get down towards this end, you start thinking about the option of passing. So if I was yellow here and I'd played some discs out and maybe I got some more supplies here, and then I came to my turn and I was done, well then I can go ahead and pass. I'm going to put my ship over here in the number 1. So that means I'm going to be the first to start putting out my mission discs here. And these are only single-sided. There's a sticker on these sides. And you have 1, 2, 3, and 4. Sometimes you'll get the Golden Hind ship, and sometimes you may also have a ghost ship to place. But you're always at least going to have 4 of these mission discs. And so this can be very important, this, passing for a turn order. It's a really huge part of the game at this juncture after you've placed all of your sort of action discs and then deciding when to pass. So after everybody's passed here, then we're going to start going into the mission phase where we're going to come down here, and like I said, we're going to start putting out our mission discs on some of these different locations. So you can see there, maybe I want to do some trading for some trade goods. Maybe I want to go over here and fight this fort here. And so everybody's going to place these out, and then we're going to flip these up and activate them basically in order. So we've got here, ones, we're going to activate all the ones, then we're going to activate all the twos and the threes and the fours. And if there's a tie, so let's say I had my one disc here, and then red had his one disc here. So how do we know which order to activate these in? Well, that's going to begin based on the turn order up there. So that's basically the real basic outline of the game. So let's talk about a little bit more of the details and like what you're going to be trying to do in these spaces up here, and then what you're trying to accomplish down here. Now I should say each player is going to get a little shipboard here. You can store your crew cubes and your guns and your supplies and any of the commodities you've traded for on there. Also, you're going to get these treasure chests, which are really cool. You can get some jewels and stuff, which I'll talk about in a second. They're going to go in here and be hidden until the end of the game. So why are you going to be collecting all this stuff here? Well, let's just start from the beginning, and then it's going to make more sense when I talk about the missions that you're going to do in a second. So here you got gray cubes again, these are crew. You got black cubes, these are guns. Now if you go here to the shipyard, you can see we've got two spaces. One gives you an upgraded ship and a gun, and the other one just gives you an upgraded ship. Now you start off with this frigate here, but you can upgrade it to a galleon, more of a warfaring ship. So if you want to do any sort of naval ship-to-ship sea battles with the Spanish Empire, you have to upgrade to this ship. If you haven't upgraded, then you can't take any of those missions. So that's what that is for. Now next you get the supplies here, and these are pretty cool little barrels that you can get, and that's going to show you how far you can sail out based on the number of supplies that you have. I'll talk a little bit more about that in detail in a second. Next we're going to go over here to the Queen. You can upgrade your ship again. Then you can get a black cube and a purple cube. And the purple cubes here are going to be used to trade for these different types of commodities. And I'll explain how you score the commodities at the end here. Finally, we're here at the tavern, and here you go and you roll a die and you get a certain number of crew. You may also get the ghost ship if you roll really poorly. And this is sort of a bluffing ship. It doesn't actually do anything, but it gives you an extra ship to kind of throw people off as you're putting the mission discs out. Here we've got the Admiral. I'll talk about the Admiral and the Governor and then the Informer further down there when I talk about the mission. It's not going to make a lot of sense right now. So you basically have these different roles that you can get and help you sort of before and after placing the mission discs, let you kind of give you sort of an informed decision. If we go up here, you have more trade goods. Here's the Governor, which I said I'd talk about in a second. More crew. Here we've got Drake, and this is actually a two-stage placement process. So when you go here, you get two crew and two guns, and then on your next placement, you have to place your disc there, and then you get a choice of a crew or a gun. So it's a very nice space, but it's going to eat up, two placements, and you're going to lose out elsewhere. Now here we've got the Pinnace or the Panache. This is going to give you one of these tokens. Again, there's two spots. The first spot will give you a crew as well. This is going to make you a little bit more versatile in terms of raiding the forts, and I'll talk about that in a second. More guns. We've got the Informer, which I'll talk about in a second. More supplies, and then here's the spot where you're going to get your Golden Hind. And think of this basically as a zero ship. Only one person is going to have these each round. And like I said, you activate, ones and twos and threes and fours. Well, you're always going to activate this one first before everything else, so that can come in handy. Now, if we move over here, we've got the last two spots, and everybody can go here. There's no limit based on the number of circles in these two spots. Here we have the Investor here. So this spot, you get a choice of either the top area or this bottom area, and everybody has one Investor tile. You're going to spend that. You're also going to lose 4 points when you do this, and this is basically a one-time per game activation. Now you can go to use the top and you can get 2 guns and a crew, or 2 crews and a gun, or you can upgrade your ship to the galleon again. And then you can go here and basically get either a supply, a gun, or a crew. And there's one spot there. After you place here, you have to pass, and then move your ship from here to here, and then we're now ready to be outbound and start playing our mission discs. Now before each round we're going to shuffle these up. These are the galleons here, the Spanish galleons, and then we're going to place these on 3 different spots on the board. And you can see here they have a different sort of power. So this one has 2 guns, but it's worth 6 points, whereas this one down here is worth 8 points and has 3 guns. So these are going to get shuffled around each round. Now before we start placing our mission discs out here, whoever has chosen the Admiral is going to take these 3 Spanish frigates here, take a look at them, and then put them down where it's going to be most beneficial to them. So they maybe will take this one that has no guns on it and put it here, and then maybe this one with 2 guns they'll put down here and make this one really hard, and then this one will go up here. Now if nobody selects it, these will just shuffle and dealt out randomly. And the other benefit to the Admiral is you can see it's got a little gold icon there. So what's going to happen is these jewels here are going to be placed out on the various spots of the board. So you've got this gold indicator here. This red one actually is just basically a jewel, and then you've got silver ones here. These clear ones are considered silver. So I'll explain how these get distributed in a second, but for having victories at these different locations, you may get these different jewels. And again, these are going to go into your treasure chest, which is pretty cool. Now, if there are any gold pieces here left over, whoever the Admiral was is going to get 1 victory point for each one that is left over, which seems like almost never when I choose the Admiral. Now, the other thing that's going to happen is if anybody chose the Governor, you can see we have these little troop icons here. So the Governor is going to get to place out any of these troops, and the Governor is going to get 1 point for each silver. You can see that there. Left over. So if you look at these different fortresses here, they're going to have a certain amount of guns and a certain amount of troops built in. So you see this one says +1, so if I took this one here, that would be 1. I'm going to put that out, and you're going to lay that on the 4 different fortresses. So whoever goes here is going to need 2 guns, and they're going to need 2 crew to fight the soldiers here. So there's basically 3 types of battles that you're going to have, and you're also going to be able to trade in these areas here where you can see the commodities depicted there. Now if you're fighting the Spanish galleons here, you just need guns, and you need to have upgraded your ship to the Spanish galleon. When you have your disc here, and we're going to activate it in order, so we've got the ones here and stuff like that. Basically this person needs 3 guns, 3 black cubes, and then they're going to get that many victory points. Now the first person to have a victory in one of these spots is going to get whatever a little glass bead or jewel was there. They're going to get that, and these are going to be worth points at the end of the game. Now the second person to come in here obviously isn't going to get the jewel, it's going to be gone, but they will get the victory points. Now that's the most you can have of a battle at any location. So once I win a battle, I'll just turn that down to know that we've had a successful battle. If I was there and I didn't have enough cubes for some reason, then I would just pull my marker off and I would fail that battle. No penalty, just I couldn't do it. And then if we got, let's say, all the way down to the 4s, it comes Red's turn, he's able to do it, so he'll turn his down. And then if there was another 4 there, let's say a blue 4, and then he wouldn't necessarily get to do it, so he'd be, out of luck. So the Spanish galleons here, that's only black cubes. You only need black cubes for that. Now the fortresses, you need both gray cubes and black cubes. So you can see this has 2 guns and +1, +1. 2 gray cubes are going to need it here. So you need crew to fight the people and guns to fight the guns. However, if you were able to grab the Panache, the Pinnace there, then you can actually use your gray cubes to fight the guns at a fortress. You can't use it in a galleon, but at the fortress you can actually convert your gray cubes in to be able to fight the guns there. And it's the same idea. You're going to get a certain number of points here. I'll zoom in a little bit there. You can see that's 4 points. And then you're going to get what other jewel was there. In this case it would be a gold jewel. In addition to the fortresses and the galleons, you've got just basic towns here. And these just have a printed value here. So you can see this just has 1 crew that you require, and it's 2 points. But you can still go in here and get the gold jewel, which is, that'll be worth a decent amount of points. But these are very simple, very basic battles here, just crew for the town. So as you have these different battles, you're going to use one of your bigger cubes here to mark it off. So if I had a round where maybe I defeated a galleon, and then I defeated a fortress, and maybe I didn't get around to defeating a town. So I would have marked these 2 the first time I've done it. If you do multiple galleons, it doesn't do anything special for you here. But you can see here at the end of the round, for each of the different types, you're going to get extra points. So in this case, I defeated 2 different types of battles, I'll get 4 points. If I had managed to defeat all 3 types, I'd get an extra 10 points. So it's good to diversify here and think about that when you're placing your action discs up there. We've also got 3 trading spots here, and before each round you're going to put the matching trade markers on the board, and then basically you just need to have a purple cube to trade in, and then you grab one of these, whatever your choice is. So the first person to activate here will get the one of their choice, and then anybody else just gets whatever's left. And you can see there's a maximum of 2 in these spots and then 3 goods here. So what are the supplies for? I've kind of left that out here. Basically, this is an interesting part of the game, and it's really the thing that makes the game so fun for me, is the way the supplies work. Okay, is you need a certain amount of supplies to travel a certain amount of spaces. So if you only had 1 supply, you would basically mark this area over here. This is the furthest you could travel. You can kind of see that line there. If I had 2 supplies, then I could move my cube over here, and I could basically travel into this area or the first area. And then we've got the 3rd and then the 4th up here. So if you have 4 supplies, you can basically go wherever you want. Well, as people are kind of placing discs and gathering resources, gathering supplies, getting guns or crew or whatever, upgrading their ships to galleons, you're going to kind of get a sense and get a feel for what are some of the spots they're going to go after. And so when I talk about the endgame scoring, this will make some more sense as well. But if somebody is going and getting 4 supplies, and you know you're not going to be able to get that, then maybe you take the Admiral and stick them with harder guns. Or maybe there's just 2 of you with 4 supplies, so you know that you're locked in here and you don't need to worry about what number of disc you place out here. If I was red and I knew that it was just going to be me and yellow out here because we're the only ones with 4 supplies, then, unless I'm interested in getting that jewel, I can go here and know that I'll get a second shot at a battle and then focus my earlier number ones here for some trade goods. Maybe I really need trade goods, or I want to get in here on a town to get that extra bonus here. So as the stuff is collected at the top, you kind of start to develop a sense, almost like a little bit of a deduction aspect of the game, to where people may or may not be going, and also which number discs they may or may not be placing in the different areas. Adding to that deduction aspect here is the informer here, and he actually can let you pick a spot, look at all of the mission discs, and take a look at those and go, okay, that's what's there, and then maybe let you swap 2 of your mission discs from one spot to another. Or you can take a look at any face down frigates or troops and give a sense there and say, oh, well, I can't defeat that one. And then when you look at these, then you can't swap yours, but you can move one of yours away from that spot. So after each round, you're going to get all your points for all the different battles that you took. You're going to collect commodities, which are scored at the end of the game. You're going to collect these different jewel tiles, which are scored at the end of the game. You can see here, silver's 3, gold's 4, and the red jewels are 5. So you're going to add all those. You're going to look at the sets of commodities that you have. Now there's 4 different types, and that's what you're trying to do is collect a variety of those types. So if you get 1 of each type, you're going to get 26 points. If you get 3 of each, you get 16. And so let's say you had collected a set of 4 and a set of 2. So you get 26 and 8. It's not actually the specific goods there. It's just you got to be different. So you're going to add those to your jewels to however many points you scored during the game, and then whoever has the most points is the winner. Okay, hope you enjoyed the overview. First thing, components, obviously amazing, outstanding. After I did the initial video for this, I actually had the designer of the game contact me, and we just chatted a little bit. And he said basically that's what he's trying to do is make these really nice Euro games. I don't know that he necessarily means Euro games, but that's the few that I've seen come out. And make these nice gamer games and just really go over the top on the components. And I think that's fantastic. I think gaming has really kind of evolved to the point where if you don't have a game with good components, I don't want to say it's no excuse, because honestly components aren't that important to me, but when you play a game with great components, it just seems to make it that much more fun. So hopefully, I kind of wish them luck, and hopefully they continue to make great games like this one. I think is a great game. Like I said before, to me that key is a sort of unraveling deduction aspect of the game. You have that initial planning phase. People are sort of either turtling or jumping ahead. As those action tiles get shuffled up, that's going to really kind of dictate a lot of variety in how those different rounds play out. and the different needs of the different people. You know, as I sort of maybe collect trade goods, it's going to become more important for me to get that last different one, because the difference between, what is it, 16 and 26, between having 3 and 4, that's huge. That's the 10 points. So that you kind of have to sort of weigh and keep in mind, you know, what people's intentions are going to be. And I really like that part of the game. It makes it very interesting. I mean, it sort of feels like worker placement at the beginning. You know, you put a guy down, you get stuff. But the whole sort of leap ahead stuff kind of reminds me of like a Glenmore or something. There's another game where you kind of have that. You either take the tile right next to you and you kind of get to take a whole bunch, or do you leap ahead for that really good one? And the fact that they're shuffled up, you know, keeps it interesting. You know, I like the map and the board and the stuff like that. The battles are basically pretty straightforward. You can try to sort of push your luck. This is, you know, not necessarily something I've seen, but I could see somebody trying to really go after something that they're not sure they're going to get. But most of the time people are pretty safe in what they're getting. And again, it kind of leads back to that sort of deduction of, okay, I think I can get this, but I know I can get this one based on what my deduction is. But you do have those occasional moments of getting screwed. And to me, I like that, because it's not like, it's not too wild, right? So you go there and you're like, okay, I can do pretty much what I want, but if I can get this last 1 or 2 things done, boy, I'm going to have a gigantic turn. And you don't usually see people have huge turns. I mean, they are like, you know, maybe once per game somebody gets out to a big lead, but then, you know, they're going to be kind of brought back in just by the nature of how everything shakes out. So I really like how that whole sort of, you know, mind-bending thing works. It's not really a complex kind of mind-bending. It's very much a sort of getting a read on the other players. So it's really cool. Now the game did come, my copy came with some extra expansions where you kind of upgrade the strength of the Spanish ships and the Spanish troops, and that will be kind of an interesting way to play. I haven't played with those, but we were kind of talking through those the other day, and like how would that really change? Well, that's totally going to change the amount of area that you spread out, you know, because if you need a lot more guns to take down a certain thing, then you really got to, you know, again, it's about hedging your bets. You're not really going to try to risk going to 1 or 2 places. You're going to stack up on guns so that you can take out that big galleon worth 8 points. And if you have a frigate on there that's worth, you know, not 0, then, you know, it's going to change it up. So that's pretty cool that you can kind of play with that sort of metagame, if you will, with those extra pieces. So I think that's something we'll try. One note, though, I should bring up, is the mission discs. Since there's a sticker on one side and not on the other side, I've got 2 of them that have chipped a little bit. It's not bad, and if people sort of forget about it, it's not going to be the end of the world, but that is kind of a big deal. If everybody knows the 3 yellow has that little ding on it, well, then they know that's a 3. So, I mean, it gets kind of competitive at the end of the game, so obviously people are going to not be able to block that out of their head once they know it. So it's something that's probably relatively repairable, but just keep that in mind. You want to keep those mission discs, you know, relatively, you know, mark-free, if you will. So yeah, this is a good game, and I definitely have had a blast playing this. Player count, like I said, it does scale well. I think I do prefer it with the more players, because it's just that much harder, you know. With 3 and stuff, it's basically, well, you kind of spread out. I mean, it does scale nice because the amount of action spaces are more limited, but just you've only got to keep track of 2 people. So I like it with less than 5, but I like it with 5, I think, the best, because there's just that much more kind of thrown into the game. And honestly, it's kind of rare nowadays that games play really good at the max player count. I'm not sure what that's about. I mean, maybe that's just kind of me, but to me, usually we see games, the max player count, oh, it's too long, and you know, this and that. There's too much going on. It's too chaotic. This one I like with the max player count the best. I still think it's good with 3 and 4. So if you've got a group with 3 and 4 and you don't really get 5, you know, it's really still a really good game. But especially if you've got a group of 5, this is cool because there's a lot going on, and there's a lot you can read into everybody's different intentions. Everybody's going to have kind of different goals, and you've got to sort of process that, and that's really fun. So there you go, Francis Drake. Thanks.